Sameach, happy holiday, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. It is Sukkot, and it's great to be with you today. And right now, I'm going to ask Joni to light the candles for Shabbat and also for Sukkot.
We're out. Oh, no.
There we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotov v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat v'shel Yom Tov. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehekianu v'kiyimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. Would love to take you out to my sukkah. Unfortunately, it's kind of cold out right now, so we won't do that. If you look at your email, you've probably received a picture of our pop-up sukkah. So let's sing together how good it is, how sweet it is for all of us to be together. Hinei Matov, which you're going to find on page 10 or 128. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה לה לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, יאללה לה לה יאללה לה לה לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה לה לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, יאללה לה לה יאללה לה לה לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים Gam Yachad. We're going to turn now, if you have your book, to page 359, or in the big book 663, 359 or 663. And the song is actually, it comes from the book of Deuteronomy. Some of you are familiar with it. V'samachta b'chagecha v'hayita ach sameach. You are required to rejoice on your holiday, and you're supposed to be entirely happy. It's a commandment to be happy. There isn't a commandment to be happy every day, but the next week, while it's Sukkot, you have to be happy. So let's turn to the bottom of 359, and please sing with me. ושמחת בחגיך והיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך והיית אך שמח ושמחת בחייך והיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך והיית שמח. יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה 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 לה לה לה, ושמחת בחגיך והיית שמח ושמחת בחייך והיית שמח. You shall rejoice on your holiday and be totally happy. Let's turn now to the Baruch Hu. we prepare to stand up. On page 28 or 146, please stand up and repeat after me the Baruch Hu, where we come together as a congregation to bless God together. Yai la 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 yai la 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 yai la 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 yai la 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 yai la 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 yai la 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 yai la 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 yai la 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevavavo Ramach Baruch Adonai Hamivorach Hamivorach Leolam Va'ed Hamivorach Hamivorach Leolam Va'ed. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. Page 30 or 148, the prayer in which we thank God for all of creation. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv aravim b'chokhmah poteach she'arim u'v'tvuna mishane itim u'machalif et hazmanim u'mesader et hakochavim B'mishmerovoteihem Barakia Kirtzono Bore Yom Valama Lama Golel Or Mipnei Choshech V'choshech Mipnei Yomor Ma'avir Yom Umevi Laila Umabdil Ben Yom Uvein Laila Adonai Tzivaot Shemo Elachai V'Kayamam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Vaed Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravimim. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. A meditation on Torah, we'll find this on page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amamo, Yisrael. You know, I realized in this prayer, I was just thinking, it said, don't let me struggle alone. And usually I've thought that refers to God, struggle with me or help me to study Torah. But I think it also applies to all of us. Let all of us as a congregation struggle together to get closer to what God wants us to know through the Torah. We turn to 34 and 35 or 152 to 153. We cover our eyes as we focus on God's presence right near, right now, with the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shemem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Page 36 or 154, the commandment to love God via Hafta. V'ahavta maha et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayevu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha ma'avava hayom alavavecha v'shinantam levademecha v'dibarta bam V'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'demerech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'keshartam liyot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot behin einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'she'aremecha l'man tizkerumu Vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. The poetic paraphrase 37 or 155. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you're tired or you're rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Song of Freedom, Mi Chamocha, page 40 or 158. Yai lai 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 yai la la lai 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 mi chamocha ba'elim adonai mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh no tehilot osei fele malchutecha ra'uvanecha Bokeh Yam Lifnei Moshe uMiriam Ze'elianu V'Amerumu Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed V'Nehemar Kifada Adonai Et Yaakov Ugealo Miyad Chazak Mimenu Baruch Atah Adonai Gal Yisrael Yala la 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 Yala la 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 Yala la 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 Yala la 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 Yai la 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 my lie. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. You'll notice in this next prayer, we talk about God spreading a shelter or a sukkah of peace over us. So we remember that when we're in the sukkah, we remember that represents God's protection. But the commentators also say that the day Shabbat and the holidays, all the holidays and the Sabbaths, they're like a shelter over us. They're also a sukkah. So we have a double sukkah, the holiday, and also, if you have it, the hut that's over you. Incidentally, I believe Nikki sent out an email. It has a picture of our pop-up sukkah, and I hope you take a look at that. It's very tiny, but it's usable. It fits one person or two people if you really like each other, but at least one person, and it takes about 3 to 5 minutes to assemble, and it's very inexpensive. So we're happy with our little pop-up sukkah that we've taken into the mountains. The prayer for peace, let's read 43 or 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai haporesh sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai haporesh sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. V'al Yerushalayim v'al kol amo. V'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai haporesh sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. Since this is a happy holiday, in the Torah it says to rejoice on Sukkot. It says it in 3 different places. Be happy, be happy, be happy. But you're also supposed to be happy on Shabbat. So we're going to sing a song that begins Yismechu. That comes from the word Simcha, which means be happy. And so we'll sing that on 44 or 162, commanding us to be happy on the day of Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shavi Shabbat. Kulam Yisbemeyu Vitangu Mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu V'malachutecha Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat Yabimim Ahotokavrata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'maseh v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher l'maseh v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Those who keep Shabbat by calling it a delight will rejoice in your realm. The people that hallow Shabbat will delight in your goodness. For being pleased with the seventh day, you hallowed it as the most precious of days, drawing our attention to the work of creation. In a few moments, we'll have the silent individual prayer. We'll stand up for that and pray silently. And when we finish it, we'll sit down. If you have the small Shabbat book, you don't actually have the Shabbat prayers, the prayers for Sukkot. So say your own prayers. If you have the big one, look for the evening tefillah for festivals. And but again, if you don't have the text for that, just offer your heart up to God with a spirit of joy as is appropriate for this holiday. Adonai sifata tiftach ufi yagid tilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. If you've not finished your prayers, continue silently. But if you've already finished your prayers, please join with me. Yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai lai lai la mai yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 ya la lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai lai la mai lai yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 ya la lai 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 yai lai yai la 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 lai yai lai la la lai yai lai 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 yai lai yai la la lai yai lai la la lai yai lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai la 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 lai 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 yai lai 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 lai. Well, as you see, my friend, my companion Petey, is in a deep meditative state. May we all achieve that level of spirituality. In a few words of Torah. Now, on Shabbat, many of you know that we take the lulav and the etrog and shake it in 6 directions on Sukkot, but we do not do this when we have Shabbat. So let's see. All right. Okay, so here's my lulav, and here is my etrog. And I'm not going to say the bracha because we're not supposed to do this, but I'm just doing this for teaching purposes. If you have it, you hold it like this, the etrog in your left hand, the lulav in your right hand. It goes this direction with the 2 over here. These are our vote, the chasadim. They're called over here. Those go higher, and those are on your right. And this is the lulav or the palm, and these are willows and myrtles. And you hold it like that. Oh, if you are lefty, I didn't know this. I just found out. If you're a lefty, you hold the etrog in your right hand. But the dominant hand holds the lulav, and again, the willow here, the myrtle here, and the palm in the middle. You say the bracha, which is Asher Kajam Mezotav Zivan al Netilat Lulav. And you also say the Shehechiyanu. And then after you do that, you turn the lulav the right direction. You shake vigorously, but not so vigorously you're going to damage 3 times this direction. That's east, 3 times south, 3 times north, 3 times west, like out and towards your chest, towards your heart, bringing God's love in, and then up and then down. So all 6 directions showing that God is everywhere, and we bless God everywhere God is, and we take in God's love from all directions. And ideally, you should do this in your sukkah. And as I said, the sukkah that I had, it was very inexpensive, and took 3 minutes to assemble. But if you're really, actually, it's better if you're in one place and you're not traveling. That's called a traveling sukkah, to have a bigger one so everybody can get together and eat together. And I'm looking forward next year, God willing, to being with everybody and celebrating Sukkot together under the stars within the sukkah. There was a king in the land of Israel, the first century BCE. His name was Alexander Yanai. And he, interestingly enough, was the grandson of Simon Maccabee. Simon Maccabee was one of the 5 Maccabee brothers who fought for freedom. They lived 100 years before. He was, or 75 years before. And Yanai Alexander was Simon, the brother of Judah. He was the grandson, a great lineage. Now, Alexander was very ambitious. He was so ambitious that in order to become king, to be sure he was king, he killed some of his family. But he was not only king, he was also the high priest. He took the job. Now, there were 2 main groups in Israel at that time, the Sadducees, who were aristocratic and had control of the temple and emphasized the sacrifices, and then the Pharisees. The Pharisees really survived, the Sadducees didn't, and the Pharisees were the founder of basically Judaism as we know it today throughout history. The Sadducees, they became very corrupt and they kind of disappeared. Well, the Mishnah tells a story in the section of the Mishnah called Sukkah. And in chapter 4, it says, there was a man who was supposed to pour water on the altar, and instead he poured water right at his legs, which was a great sacrilege. And all the Jewish people there took their etrogs, They took them and they threw it at him because he showed disrespect. Most of the people there were Pharisees. He, like a Sadducee, didn't believe in that ritual. So, as a contemptuous one, even though he was high priest, he just poured the water out. Now, in the Mishnah, it doesn't say who this man was. It probably doesn't say who he was because it's kind of an embarrassing story. But actually, Josephus, the Jewish historian, tells us that it was Alexander Yanai who got pelted with all the etrogim. Well, after that happened, he had 6,000 Jews killed. And there was a big civil war, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees fought each other, and other countries came in. There was lots of killing. Alexander Yanai was so cruel. He would kill people in front of his whole family as a joy, killing families in front. Terrible, terrible person. And a great desecration for this wonderful holiday, because this holiday was the happiest time, as I've mentioned. What they would do, some of you know this, all the great rabbis, the most pious ones, they would do somersaults and acrobatics. They would take torches and juggle them. In the city of Jerusalem, they had golden candlesticks that were 75 feet high, and they would light those and parade around, and they would blow the shofar, and they'd have beautiful orchestral music. This was amazing. This was like the World's Fair in Jerusalem, only better than a World's Fair. It was an amazing spectacle. And the height of it, the height of all this joy, was when, as to symbolize God's gift of water, we need rain. To symbolize it, the high priest was supposed to pour water on the altar. Alexander Yanai made a sacrilege of it. So what can we learn from this story? Number one, Sukkot, of course, is a time when we have to be really, really happy. And regardless of what happens, we should be happy. Number two, if you don't like the king and you throw stuff at him, you may end up with a civil war. You may get more than you bargained for. And also, if you're the king and you don't respect your people and you're contemptuous of your people, they're going to throw etrogim at you, or they'll throw something at you. They won't like you. So watch the consequences if you're too cruel and too disrespectful in responding to your leaders. But also, leaders need to know if they're disrespectful, bad things may happen. This story also tells us that even if your parents are very distinguished, wonderful people, their children and grandchildren, there's no guarantee that they're going to turn out good. And finally, we celebrate Hanukkah because of in part, because of the military victory that allowed Jews to practice their religion freely. But it was done by violence, and maybe the war that the Maccabees fought, that war may well have been worth fighting. But when you use violence, there's a possibility that violence will be learned by your children and your grandchildren. And maybe there's an alternative to violence, to pushing for power and for freedom. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. And I will try to be a good spiritual leader. Please don't throw etrogs at me if you don't like what I say. So let's turn now to the Misha Beirach. We'll find that on 253. And we want to remember in the congregation our friends Judy and Danny and our friend Marshall. I want to remember my own rabbi, Rabbi Steve, and I want to remember my friends Lisa and Steve, and I want to remember all of my clients for healing, especially Sylvia and Tony and Beverly and Stephanie. And if you have people that you want to be blessed with health and healing, hold them in your heart or say their names and sing with me on 253 or 371 Misha Beirach. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mikor Habaracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishebeirach imotenu mikor haberacha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Let's prepare to stand up for the Alenu, which you'll find on 282 or 586. Everybody, please stand up, bottom of the page, and sing with me. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'goraleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, Umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. We've just praised the sovereign of the universe in Hebrew, proclaiming the greatness of the Creator who set the Jewish people apart from the other families of the earth, giving the Jewish people a destiny that's unique among all nations. For that reason, we bent our knees and we bowed down, acknowledging the supreme sovereign, the Holy One of blessing. We hope that all people will come together as one to worship God in their own way, but directing their hearts towards God, all of us together. We express this hope, 287 or 591, the middle of the page, V'ne'emar. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, yiyeh Adonai k'nechad, u'shemo, echad. We turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish. We'll find that on 294 or 598. We want to remember the following people who have yard sites: Shirley Fisher, Violet Jago Winton, Leah Byrne, Leo Brown, my uncle, Albert Atlas, Eve Eisner, Harry Dopkin, Ben Jacobowitz, Derry Denkins, Rabbi Jerome B. Cohen, Martin Rosenthal, Ted Annenberg, Fami Fewer, Friday, Machla Ruchel Garber, and Ann Scher. And of course, our dear friend, Mark Roush. As a community of mourners, we recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yolemad divrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'vizman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'olamei olamaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpahar, v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yidaleh, v'yithalal, shemei dekudsha barichu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'olama v'yimaru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru, amen. May the one who makes peace in the highest heavens bring peace to us, to Israel, to all people, and let us say, amen. When we did the Misha Beirach, I want to say I was remiss. We should remember at this time President Trump and his wife and all victims of COVID, all people who have illnesses everywhere, but especially we think about our president and those who suffer from COVID. May they have healing of the body and healing of the spirit. There's a special kiddush for Sukkot and Sukkot and Shabbat. And take your wine in your hand, and we will sing this together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacharach amanu mikol ha'am v'rom amanu mikol ha'shon v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'titen lanu Eloheinu be'ava Shabbatot limnucha u'moadim l'simcha chagim u'zmanim l'sason et yom ha'shabbat hazeh v'et yom ha'sukkot hazeh zman simchatenu b'ava mikra kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidavashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat u'moedei kodshecha v'yahava u'ratzon v'simcha u'sason hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat v'Yisrael v'Hazmanim. Before we have challah, we will wash our hands. If you have challah before you, go ahead and wash your hands. You can say the blessing. In English, it's thank you, dear God, giving us the holy mitzvah to wash our hands. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Bim bum, bim 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 bum, bim 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 bum, bim bum, bim 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 bum, bim 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 bum. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, bim bum, bim 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 bum, bim 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 bum. Final blessing. If you have somebody you're blessing, put your hands on their shoulders or their head. And if you have somebody who's not with you, send the blessing out. And if you're receiving the blessing, listen carefully and repeat after me if you're giving the blessing. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and watch over you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yechuneka. May God's face light up towards you, and may God be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom. May God's face be lifted up towards you, and may God grant you peace. Ken yehi ratzon, so may it be God's will. Shabbat shalom, Chag Sameach. Have a sweet holiday, have a sweet Shabbat, and stay safe and healthy, and we will see you next week.